I didn't expect everything to be so terrible and that I would have to kill my own people. But let's go back to the beginning. March 24th, 4:47 hours. Somewhere over Texas. I used to think the worst thing that could happen on a mission was engine failure, maybe a rocket up the tail rotor. Turns out, that was optimism. The real nightmare came from the ground, on two legs, with jaws that never stopped moving. We were flying low across a dusty stretch near Fort Hood, 5 minutes out from a recon drop for a National Guard unit that went dark overnight. I had my M240 locked into its swing mount, gloves on, harness clipped, and the sunrise bleeding red over the hills like the horizon was already on fire. Our pilot, Chief Warrant Officer Ramirez, was tapping the comms panel. Still no response, he muttered. They were supposed to check in every hour. We're 4 hours past the last ping. That's when we caught the first sign something was wrong. Real wrong. From this high, I spotted movement near the LZ. Not the usual cautious patrol lines, not even panicked civilians. This was chaos. A writhing mass of bodies. And blood. Jesus. I leaned out the open side door, squinting past the wind and rotor wash. They're eating each other. At first, no one answered. Then the co-pilot's voice cracked through the headset. What the hell did you just say? I said. I growled. They're eating each other. Ramirez tilted the bird lower. I chambered around and steadied my grip. What I saw below, it still haunts me. Dozens of people, if you could still call them that, ripping, clawing, dragging soldiers down and tearing into them like rabid dogs. We never touched down. Instead, we got our first taste of the end. One of the bodies looked up, eyes sunken, mouth wide, and lunged at a rotor tech, trying to scramble back toward the Humvee. He didn't make it. Blood sprayed in a mist, catching the morning light like dew. The rest followed, swarming over the vehicle like ants on a carcass. Abort the drop, Ramirez barked. We're pulling out. Too late. A distress call cracked over the emergency frequency. One of the guard survivors, panting, screaming, begging. He didn't last more than 10 seconds on the line before the static swallowed him whole. Then we heard the scream from the back of the Hawk. Private Dawson. I spun around just as he clutched his neck, blood gushing through his fingers. His helmet hit the floor with a hollow thud. Eyes wide, he gasped like a fish out of water. Behind him stood the medic, Staff Sergeant Blake, his mouth smeared with red, eyes vacant, jaw twitching as if it couldn't stop chewing. He'd been bit. No warning. No signs. My training didn't cover this. But instinct did. I drew my Beretta M9 from my thigh holster and squeezed the trigger twice. The first round slammed into Blake's skull, jerking his head back like a puppet with cut strings. He crumpled on the spot. Dawson was on his knees, coughing blood, staring at me. It burns, he whispered. His hands were shaking. I don't want to become one of them. He didn't have to ask. I stepped in close, pressed the muzzle to the center of his forehead. I'm sorry, brother. One shot. His body dropped quietly to the deck. We landed in a dry riverbed 15 minutes later. Emergency protocol. I helped Ramirez and the crew drag the bodies out. No ceremony. Just rocks, heat, and silence. We doused them in JP, ate, and lit a flare. The flames caught fast. The wind howled through the canyon like it was mourning them. No one said a word the rest of the flight. Day 1, hour 5, and I'd already killed 2 of my own. This wasn't war. It was something worse. The rotor blades thumped overhead like a war drum. No one spoke. Not Ramirez. Not the crew chief. Not even me. The stench of burned fuel still lingered in my nostrils from what we left behind. 2 body bags we didn't have time to fill. Just ash and scorched bone now. I'd buried brothers before, but never like that. Never with a can of jet fuel and a Bic lighter. My gloves were sticky with sweat. Or maybe it was blood. I didn't want to check. Then the radio crackled. Raptor 1, this is Overwatch Actual. New tasking. Priority 1. Ramirez answered, voice flat. Raptor 1. Go ahead. You are to proceed to grid Charlie 219er. 6 survivors on the ground. Repeat, 6. Confirmed U.S. Army Special Forces. They've been holding a forward observation post near Waco. Lost comms 2 hours ago. Last drone pass shows they're pinned and requesting immediate evac. Possible contact in proximity. Possible contact. That was the new euphemism for things with teeth. Ramirez glanced back at me. Strap in. We're not done yet. I racked the charging handle on the M240 out of habit. My sidearm, the Beretta M9, rested heavy on my thigh like it knew it would be used again. Are they armed? I asked over the headset. The co-pilot replied, they're SF. If they're breathing, they're armed. Charlie 219er was a mess. Burned-out farmland, narrow roads, and what looked like a collapsed grain silo. When we broke through the low cloud cover, I spotted smoke, dark, oily, rising in 2 spirals from the tree line. Ramirez pulled us lower. Visual on LZ? Got M, I said. Grid matches. Movement near the red barn. 6 figures, hunkered behind a flipped MRAP. And surrounding them was the damn dead. Dozens of infected. Moving faster than I remembered from this morning. Some were crawling, some sprinting. Others just wandered, twitching like their nervous systems didn't get the memo they were supposed to be dead. I felt the hawk shudder as we leveled out into an approach. Prep for hot extraction, the crew chief called. Door gunners, cover fire. We've got 30 seconds. I removed the safety catch from my M240 and took a deep breath. The last time we touched the ground, we brought death with us. Now we were going in to pull life out of it. If we made it back up. The Black Hawk's nose dipped as Ramirez brought us low, rotor wash kicking up a storm of ash and broken corn stalks. The burned-out field blurred beneath us. 50 feet. 30. 15. We hovered just above the crumpled MRAP. Hold it steady. I shouted into the comms, my gloved hands gripping the M240. Below, the 6 figures in tattered multicam burst from cover. Their movement was fast, surgical, stacked like they'd rehearsed this 100 times in better days. One of them covered the others with a suppressed scar as they sprinted onto the roof of the overturned MRAP. I tracked the edge of the field. The infected were closing in, fast. At least 2 dozen. One broke into a dead sprint, shrieking like its lungs had never rotted. Contact left. I barked. I opened fire. I started working with my M240. The rotor wash flattened the grass as the Special Forces guys started climbing, one by one, up from the MRAP into the cabin. The crew chief grabbed arms and vests, hauling them in. Their faces were bloodied, eyes wide but focused. These weren't raw recruits. 5 in, someone yelled. Last man. I saw him leap, barely caught the skid, his foot slipping. I reached out, grabbed his wrist with both hands, and yanked. He slammed into the deck, rolled, and gave me a breathless nod. Go, go, go. The crew chief shouted. Ramirez didn't wait. The Black Hawk surged upward like it had been shot from a cannon. The dead swarmed below, clawing the MRAP, shrieking up at us as we banked hard to the east. One of them jumped and almost caught the skid, almost. Too slow. Too dead. In the headset, Ramirez opened comms. Overwatch, this is Raptor 1. Package secured. 6 survivors on board. Minimal injuries. En route to secondary extraction point. There was static, then command responded. Copy that, Raptor 1. You are cleared for fallback to Bastion Station. Be advised, full quarantine procedures in effect. Keep your eyes on those survivors. No exceptions. I looked across the cabin. 6 soldiers. Bloodied. Exhausted. One of them wouldn't meet my eyes. And something in my gut told me the worst was still inside this bird. The cabin was thick with sweat, blood, and rotor noise. None of us said much. We were just 30 feet above a dying world, slicing east toward what command still dared to call a safe zone. I kept one eye on the 6 men we'd just pulled out. They sat hunched along the bay wall, gear battered, uniforms torn, the stink of smoke and death clinging to them like second skin. One of them, a staff sergeant with dead gray eyes, stared at the floor, silent since we'd yanked him in. Then the unit commander stood. "Eyes on me," he ordered, voice like stone. "Everyone, show your hands. Now." There was a beat of hesitation, but even exhausted, these were professionals. Gloves came off, sleeves rolled up. 5 sets of hands went up. Pale, dirty, but clean. Then the 6th man, the one who hadn't said a word, hadn't made eye contact since the MRAP, raised his hand slowly. There, across his forearm, was a raw red welt. Jagged, fresh, still weeping slightly. "Jesus," I muttered. The commander stepped closer. "Where did you get that?" The soldier didn't answer. "Where?" the commander barked. "Back at the silo," the man rasped. "One of them grabbed me. Scratched, I think." The cabin went cold. The crew chief hit the intercom. "Pilot, we've got a possible exposure. One of the package is wounded, scratch or bite, unknown." Ramirez's voice cut in, tight and grim. "Copy that. Command will want full quarantine. Relaying now." We heard the reply from Overwatch less than 30 seconds later. "Confirmed. Keep eyes on. Watch for signs of mutation, aggression, convulsions, discoloration. If he turns, eliminate immediately. No hesitation." The commander nodded. "Understood." I flicked the safety on my M9. So did the rest of the crew. The infected didn't have to tear us apart from outside. One scratch was all it took. Now the real tension wasn't down there. It was sitting right in front of us. The air in the cabin was heavy, thicker than the smoke we'd flown through. No one moved. No one spoke. Every eye flicked toward the soldier with the fresh wound. The scratch. He just sat there, hunched forward, breathing like his lungs were trying to rebel inside his chest. Then it started. His skin, already pale from shock, began to darken. Not bruising, not dirt, something deeper. Veins turned black beneath the surface, spidering up his neck. His breath caught in his throat with a ragged gasp. And then his eyes. They turned red. A bloodshot bloom overtook them, drowning his irises in crimson. 1 second he was just a man. The next, he was becoming something else. Someone shouted, "He's turning." But the soldier raised his hands, palms out. "No," he rasped. "No, don't." He moved slowly, deliberately. First, he set down his rifle. Then he unbuckled his vest, his armor. One by one, he laid his gear on the floor like a man leaving his life behind piece by piece. The commander stepped forward, gun half raised. "Stand down." The infected soldier looked up, his voice cracked, but calm. "Tell my wife I stayed human." Then he reached into his waistband and pulled out an M67 frag grenade. We all froze. He didn't arm it. Not yet. Instead, he moved to the cabin door. "Open it," he said. The crew chief looked to Ramirez, who responded instantly. "Do it." With a hiss and groan, the side door of the Black Hawk slid open, the wind screaming into the cabin. Fields blurred far below. The soldier looked back one last time. His eyes were glassy now, but not wild. "Not yet. Thanks for pulling us out," he said. He pulled the pin and jumped. The grenade clattered in his hand as he fell, his body vanishing into the dawn haze like a wisp of smoke. And then, a flash, far below. A muffled thump. Gone. Silence. I sat back, heart pounding like a war drum in my chest. My hands were shaking. No one spoke for a long time. Finally, the commander said it, low and heavy. He made his choice, and I knew he was right. But that didn't make it any easier. The explosion was still echoing in my ears when Ramirez came over the comms. Commands responding. We all listened. Raptor 1, this is Overwatch. Incident logged. You did the right thing. Proceed to secondary coordinates. Grid Delta 527. You'll rendezvous with a fuel truck driver, call sign Nomad 3. Refuel and exfil him. Then continue east. New destination, Echo Facility. Priority Black. That last word snapped everyone to attention. Black. Meaning, classified. Need to know, we ask no questions. I exhaled slowly and checked my mag again. The Beretta's weight on my thigh felt heavier now. Everything did. Copy that. Overwatch, Ramirez answered. En route to Delta 527. The bird turned slightly, banking us toward the horizon. I looked over the survivors. 5 left now. 1 man down. The empty space near the cabin door still felt full of him. His gear, his silence, his choice. The rest of them had gone cold. Stone-faced. Focused. But the kind of focused you get when you've seen too much and buried it deep. 30 minutes later, the world below turned rural again. Pastures, dirt roads, and scattered barns half swallowed by creeping fire lines. But the fuel stop? It was dead silent. Eyes open, I muttered. Too quiet. The GPS locked onto a narrow road cutting through dry farmland. A single tan tanker truck sat parked in the clearing, engine idling. Next to it stood a man in dusty coveralls, holding a flare in one hand and an AR slung across his back. That's him, the crew chief confirmed. Nomad 3. We circled once. No movement. No hostiles. No signs of a trap. Ramirez brought us down fast and light. The skids kissed dirt with a puff of dust. The Special Forces team moved like a machine. 2 dropped out and fanned left and right, covering the flanks with eyes on the tree line. The commander and another checked the truck, clearing it, while the crew chief and I jumped out to greet the driver. Raptor 1, the man asked. His beard was flecked with dust, eyes sharp despite exhaustion. That's us. You're Nomad 3? He nodded. Fuel's ready. Hook me up, but I'm riding out with you. No way in hell I'm staying behind. We didn't argue. The crew got to work. Fuel lines hissed as JP-8 flowed into our tanks. The wind picked up. Still nothing stirred beyond the road. No infected. No people. Only wind. Only us. 15 minutes later, we were full. Mount up, the commander ordered. Let's move. Nomad 3 climbed in beside me, eyes scanning the sky like he expected it to fall. The rest of the team piled back in. The crew chief slammed the cabin door shut. Rotors thundered. We were airborne again. Destination, Echo Facility. Whatever that meant. Whatever waited for us there. It was classified. And after everything we'd just seen, I was starting to wonder if we were being sent to witness the end of the world, or to bury the truth of how it started. The tanks were full. Everyone was breathing. For the first time since sunrise, I thought maybe, just maybe, we had a chance. We cut east, low over the highway, the horizon smudged with smoke. Then the commander tapped my shoulder and pointed down. Look, convoy. Below us, a string of vehicles, Humvees, supply trucks, a bus with barred windows, was grinding forward through the back roads. But the problem wasn't their engines. It was what was closing in from the fields. A swarm. Not massive, maybe 100, maybe less. But they were moving fast, bounding over ditches, clawing toward the vehicles like starving wolves. The convoy had already bottlenecked. If we didn't intervene, they'd be swallowed alive. Ramirez, bring us around. I shouted. The Hawk banked hard, rotors screaming. My gloves found the M240's grips, and I squeezed. The first burst chewed through the front ranks, tearing bodies in half and kicking up fountains of blood and dust. The Special Forces guys didn't wait for orders. They yanked the side doors wide and leaned out, firing disciplined bursts from their rifles. Suppressed or not, every crack added to the chorus of death. Below, soldiers in the convoy looked up in shock. then rallied, joining the storm with their own small arms fire. 10 minutes. That's all it took. 10 minutes of concentrated firepower to turn a killing ground into a graveyard. The last infected dropped with half its skull missing, sliding to a stop against a tire. Smoke curled from the barrels of my weapon, the air reeking of cordite and rot. We circled once more. Survivors from the convoy spilled out, waving helmets, raising rifles in salute. One of them shouted through a field radio, voice ragged with gratitude. "Thank you. God bless you, Hawk. God bless you." But we didn't linger. Ramirez pushed the throttle, and we climbed away. The horizon swallowed the convoy behind us. Ahead, Echo Facility waited. Understood. The GPS guided us in. First it was farmland, then a barren stretch of tarmac. Nothing, just silence. Then, out of nowhere, a square of cleared concrete. A massive helicopter pad marked with faded paint. Beside it, an old hangar, its corrugated walls rusting, windows long gone. "Where the hell is everybody?" the crew chief muttered. Ramirez made contact. "Echo Facility, this is Raptor 1. Requesting instructions." Static. Then a voice, calm, clipped, official. "Raptor 1, you are cleared to land. Engines cold. Remain on site until met. Do not disperse." We touched down, the rotors groaning to a stop. Dust settled around us in the stillness. That's when he appeared. A single man. Gray coveralls. Clipboard in one hand, pistol on his hip. He walked with deliberate calm. No hurry, no fear. He came right up to the skids and looked us over like we were specimens in jars. "Welcome to Echo Facility," he said. "All personnel, dismount. Follow me into the hangar." We exchanged glances, but orders were orders. The crew chief unlatched the door. Boots hit concrete. Inside the hangar, it was dark, the stale air reeking of oil and disinfectant. A steel door opened at the far end. Bright white light spilled out. "Through here," the man said. We entered a sterile room lined with metal tables and curtains. It was an examination bay. Clothes off. All of it. Weapons to the lockers. You will be examined for infection markers. Noncompliance is not tolerated. There was no arguing. One by one, we stripped down under the harsh lights, the air cold against sweat-soaked skin. Medics in white suits and masks moved among us, scanning, checking, taking samples. Every bruise, every scar got inspected twice. Finally, after passing the inspection, at least that's what they claimed, we were given clean uniforms, our equipment, and our weapons. Then a man with a notebook opened another door. "And now," he said, his voice echoing off the concrete, "you will come with me." The stairs led down, deeper, and for the first time since this nightmare began, I realized we were safe. But the struggle continues.